played both.
I played the beginning. because I'm trying to get better about housekeeping. I'm very bad at this. Like I own my own company, but I'm very bad at the social part of it. So I'm trying to figure it out. Oh yeah, it looks so great. Aw. Okay, thank you. Also, thank you all for having me. This is cool. I used to do a lot more of these talks, and now I do the rest of them. So I had to like brush off on my rusty skills. But we're gonna start with hi. So you guys want to learn the names. I tried to craft this presentation for y'all thinking everything that I would have found useful when I was starting out, or wish I had known when I was starting out. So that's my goal. And do on my own island. So some ground rules. Please, for the love of God, ask me some questions. Like I assume, like many of you have ADHD, so when you ask me questions, I get excited. I'm like, okay, let's go. We're gonna go down this tangent. So it also shows me that you guys are awake and that I haven't lost you. So please feel free to always raise your hand and I'll answer whatever you got. Also, big deal. This is just my experience and my opinions. I did spend a couple hours just deep diving on the state of the industry currently, so I could give you guys like a really informed opinion on some suggestions. So I stole that, but the rest of it is just based on my experiences, which could be completely different than someone else's. So you really need to seek out more advice than just mine, and more experience than just mine. And also, I could absolutely be wrong about a lot of the stuff I talk about, but I also could be right. It's dichotomy. And I really genuinely do not care about being the smartest person in the room, but I do care very much. And I built most of my career on trying to help you have all the tools that you need to be successful in whatever capacity I can. So that's my goal. That's my goal when I teach the kids or do these talks or do any mentorships. I just want you guys to have tools. So not yet omniscient, so I obviously will have some gaps in my knowledge, okay? We're working on it one day. Okay, so who am I? And this is actually made by one of my kids. They made me as a little demon. So great. So I teach kids, actually, I was a game developer for roughly 20 years. And primarily I worked in casual and mobile areas, did some contracting for AAA studios, but I've never worked in a game that any of you would recognize. They're all very tiny or very middle-sized games. Some of them I was very, very proud of, and I thought they were fantastic. Some of them, they were a paycheck, kind of lived that life. But most of my experience was as an art director. So I was also a lead artist, and I have spent a lot of time managing people and teams, and that could be small teams that are in-house, all the way to contracting teams across the cities. And in 2013, I started my own company, which is called Game Worlds. And we teach kids as young as 8 all the way to 18 game development and software development. And they make a game prototype in the week, so they'll do the art, the code, the design, the audio, all of it. And at the end of the week, they actually pitch it to game developers for prizes and feedback. Had a lot of kids from the feds come and do summer staffing with us. Y'all have always been fantastic. And the kids build something that's really cool and really creative and not a ton of time. And I have been both humbled and really inspired by what they do. It's also very hard to be sort of a bitter old game developer surrounded by kiddos that are like genuinely excited by the things that you loved when you started. So it's really good for your heart. I have tons of experience as a contractor and freelancer. I have almost zero experience working directly with AAAs, so I can't really tell you what that's like other than knowing people in the industry and having been exposed to it for a while. I do have tons of experience as a small business owner. I do have experience knowing what doesn't work, and lots of experience about teams. And I think at this point I've seen at least 1,000 game prototypes come through just our camp alone, and so I have gotten a really good crash course on what makes a game immediately good and a game immediately bad. So I have tons of advice for that. I'm absolutely terrible at animation and rigging, like really bad. Don't make me do it. Like you'll all be unhappy. I'm a mediocre piano player, and I used to be very good at Smash, like very, very good. not anymore, but I could still kill almost all of you. Maybe not you at Unreal Tournament, but I was also very good at that, and still am. Also, if you, I just finished Alien, or if you like the Aliens franchise, I mean, really like it, please come talk to me, because I like to nerd out about it, and there's not many of us, all right, so, okay. Do you have any questions before I move on? Go for it.
Who's your main in Smash?
My name in Smash, Fufu.
I said main.
Oh, sorry. I was like, the gamer tags are okay. We know each other so well. No, I would say my main probably right now is Joker, just because I had really good reaction, and playing him makes me pay attention to spacing, which makes me a better defensive player. I like Pyro and Mithra just because throwing fire is fun. But they're going to nerf them at some point, so that's why that's much fun. And then Bowser, and then I played Corrin for a really long time. So we play Smash at the camp tons too, so we're keeping the flame alive. Do y'all have like a Smash club here?
We have an esports team.
What? Okay. That's very cool. We just have little kids playing Smash. Although they take it seriously. They train for the entire year for these tournaments. And I did one tournament for the staff and realized what we're doing to the children when you have a room full of 30 people yelling and cheering them on while they're like, and I was like, this is cruel. It's entertaining, but it's cruel. Okay, so next slide. So one of the things I wanted to give you guys was some perspective. And I'm sure that you're not unaware of this, but the last 2 years were really, really tough for games. And even just going through the data from the GDC, yearly report, and all the other papers that I looked at, which I referenced at the end, 41% of game developers experienced layoff in the last year, and 75% of them were in the US, and AAA development contracted. So when we're looking at the breakdown of who was the hardest hit, who was artists, QA, and then narrative design. And the reason I want to start with this is I think you guys sometimes are insulated from sort of the boom and bust cycle of game development, which I think is a disservice to you, especially because you are going to school to enter into this field. And so having a clear idea of like what that field is going to look like from a business standpoint is really useful for you. And especially if you're looking at graduating in the next year or so, this matters, okay? So it's obviously scary. The people who are in the industry are really scared. It's reasonable, and I do think we should talk about it because it gives us opportunities to make up strategies and figure out how we can make sure that we can stay employed and we can make sure that our skills are applicable to the market as it's available to us, all right? So I wanted to start with the bad thing, and then we're gonna go up higher, okay? So that's the goal. All right, so this is more information though that came out of reading those reports, and it's interesting, and I think it gives us some tools. So right now, 32% of open jobs are located in Asia, and China is right behind us in job opportunities for game development, and they're probably going to overtake us in the next year. And then something else that was really interesting is that based on survey data, more than 56% of developers are now financing their games independently. And that's a big change from even just like 5 or 6 years ago. So something to pay attention to. Also, something that's very interesting is indie revenues grew at a 22% compound annual rate from 2018 through 2024. And that basically means that everything holding steady, indies are growing at a more exponential rate than AAA. So that's important for you because you're looking at a market of like who you're going to go work for, which skills you're going to apply yourselves for. And then if you're looking at your gamers, the people who play games, and I'm interested if you guys feel this on your own side, it seems like 22% of gamers cited gameplay as the #1 reason they played their favorite games. So like, why are you guys playing the games that you're playing right now? Is it because they're like franchises that you've always loved, or is it because, are you trying new stuff with indies? Like, just anybody, tell me what's going on, because y'all are a huge pool of information as well. Go for
It
it.
wouldn't really apply to me because the only games I'm playing right now are all that story.
They're all about story? Cool, yeah, me, I'm playing story too, I'm a story player as well.
Alan Wake and Little Fires 3.
Perfect. Yeah, what about you?
I feel like I basically play games if I hear about them or my friends like recommend them to me. Like that's like the only way. Like I won't really, even if I think a game is cool, a lot of times I won't play it. Like I've not also gotten someone else to tell me, oh, this is really cool. But okay, now I get it.
So it's like that social, like,
Yeah.
you can share it with them. It's like the same reason I started watching Alienator, because my friends were
Yeah.
watching it. And I would have watched it eventually on my own, but having that threshold made a huge difference. Yeah. What about you? Yeah, you.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, gameplay, honestly.
Gameplay. What are the games that you like for gameplay right now?
Hollow Knight, Silk Song,
Yeah.
Brutal Orchestra, and honestly, Magic the Gathering Arena.
Oh, nice. Cool, cool. Are you gonna try Hades too?
Pardon?
You gonna try Hades too?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Could get to,
Well, I've got that downloaded. That's my, like, I think that's the skill that I like.
yeah.
Silk Song's a little too more aggressive. I don't have time to get good. I'm old.
I
I'm
guess.
slow. Like, I can't do it well. Cool. So I think we sometimes forget that we're making, especially as older game developers, we forget like who we're making the games for. So knowing what gamers are looking for in their games right now is really important to you as well, because that's going to affect, again, the types of games that you guys want to make and the skills that you build. Also, this has been obvious to me, but it was nice to be right. But top indie games rival or surpass AAA titles in critical acclaim. So 75% of the top 20 highest rated games on Metacritic were developed by indie studios, which is very cool. Also, I'm sure you guys have experienced this. I had definitely experienced this because I started the industry in 2005, and the tools that were available were thousands of dollars and very inaccessible. And the engines were so clunky and so difficult to get into unless you were a really experienced programmer and exactly the language that those engines use. And now we have this huge just arena of software that's really, really friendly to people in all different areas of game development. So this is cool. You guys have so many tools available to you to just build stuff. And then as far as company types go, 30% of responders reported working for indie studios, then AAA studios and AA studios. You all know what AAA studio is, right? Okay, cool. Just making sure. Sometimes I have blind spots. And this is cool though. The majority of respondents, 50% work in studios with 50 or fewer employees, which is a thing that you should be aware of. Again, like when you're thinking about your skills and like where you're gonna be putting in your time and effort. So how to deal with all these facts? So I really recommend that you take advantage of the fact that you're in school right now and that your primary focus, I hope that you get to have your primary focus right now on your school, is making stuff. So outside of just your classes, I would really, really encourage you to start making games. Participate in any small, seemingly innocuous game jam that comes across that looks at all interesting, whether it's like local game jam is a huge one, obviously you'll probably are doing that one, but there's also like, if you just go on HGDC, there is a game jam every single weekend of the entire year and almost every single day. You can participate in those even if there's only 25 people doing them. But the reason you would want to do that is you guys really, really need to learn to make good games by making a shit ton of bad games. Okay, so you have taste. I'm assuming that most of you, maybe a couple of you lack it, but some of you have taste, right? But the thing that you're lacking is skill, right? And what you need to do to polish that skill is to really make stuff that just is garbage, that looks like crap, that plays like crap, that is not good. Because when you make that stuff inexpertly and poorly, you learn more than if it's just perfect, right? Like when I draw something that looks like the legs are broken and the head is too large and everything, I start to understand what I did wrong and how to do things right. If you start making tons of games, you're gonna get also other skills like learning to work on a team. you need to have that skill to be successful in this industry, period. If you cannot work on a team with other people, you will not have a job in this industry past the first one, okay? And so working on a team, like we tell the kids, which is applicable to adults as well, is you don't have to like everybody on your team, and you won't. Like some people you will not want to be friends with, you won't want to see outside of work, but you have to learn to be professional. You have to learn to communicate clearly. You have to learn to advocate for yourself, set boundaries. You have to learn a lot of soft skills that you only get by actually being, on a weekend crunch where you're game jamming and everyone's tired and you're cranky and this thing just broke and you've got an hour to submit, and how are you going to deal with this? Because yelling at each other is not the solution to fix that problem. And until you've actually experienced that level of stress of working with other people in a high stress environment, you are probably not going to be able to develop those skills. Just take a deep breath, look at the problem, triage what you can, and accept the reality as it is. It's broken, but we did our best, right? Those are things that you have to practice. And then also a thing that I see primarily with younger developers, but some older developers as well, is yours is not the most important job, okay? So you could be the most amazing artist. That doesn't mean that you can make a game all by yourself. You need other people, you need other skills to be able to code things, have the music play, design it so that it's fun, right? I have built a ton of games on my own and game jams. I'm not a very good designer. They're not very fun. They look beautiful, but they're not very fun. They would be better if I had a designer working with me. So you need to really go into this with a lot of humility and understanding that everybody has to work together and equally contribute for this thing to be really beautiful or good. So you need, as a designer, to be able to communicate and have a lot of respect for your art team. You as a programmer need to have respect for your audio engineers and your audio designers. If you're an artist, you need to be able to talk to a programmer and ask them to implement your art in a way that makes sense to them. And you as a programmer have to learn how to value what the artists are doing and see it as an integral part of the game. You really only get those skills by actually working together and doing this stuff. And then you absolutely do not have an understanding of realistic scope or how to finish stuff. I barely have an understanding of realistic scope and how to finish stuff. So making a game in 48 hours teaches you a lot about where your priorities should be, and you don't get to not finish. You have to submit the thing. So these are two skills that you don't get, especially if you're just taking classes or you're just waiting for permission to start building games by getting your first job. You're not going to have any of these skills unless you actually start building stuff now. So you really need to prioritize making space in your schedule for just building stuff and being okay with it sucking and being okay with it being, maybe it's a little stressful and we only do it once every 2 months, and you find other people who also feel the same way and you do it with them, okay? Any questions? I know I just talked a lot, so this is probably the one I care the most about. Yeah. Okay, so the other thing I really recommend for you guys is to find your joy. So you need to experiment and make mistakes, and sometimes that includes life mistakes, right? And I know right now every decision feels like it is the most important decision that you'll ever make. But you would be surprised at how many of those are not the most important decision that you'll ever make. You don't yet know what you're gonna like doing for 8 hours a day for the next 10 years, and that could absolutely change as time goes on. So for example, I thought that I would be a concept artist, and I worked really hard at being all the things that I could be for a concept artist, and then when I started actually working in the industry, I liked managing people, and I really liked making UI, which I would never have thought that I did, but I loved it. I was like, oh, this is my minutia. This is so much fun. I also liked just weird side things like texturing stuff and rigging stuff, and it's like you kind of figure out these things that you have a skill for and that really you can hyperfixate on and lose yourself in. But you won't know what those are unless you play around and be willing to experiment. And you'd be surprised at what brings you joy. You also, listen, I know you have an idea of what company you want to work for or the perfect game that you want to build, and that's a driving force for you, especially when you're starting out. But I really recommend that you sort of be realistic with yourself and say, you can't sit around waiting for that perfect opportunity to present itself. You're going to lose a lot of opportunities earlier on. So you may really, really want to work for like EA to work on Mortal Kombat, because that's your dream job. I'm mentioning this because one of my friends like that, he actually got his dream job, so like that one. But it took him like 10 years. So you may have a dream of the company that you want to work for or the kind of game that you want to build, but like you need to be willing to like do other jobs, work for other companies, gain other skills, and you'd be surprised at how many times like that ideal company isn't actually that nice to work for. And that perfect game that you played, that you love playing, is actually terrible and excruciating to build, right? So like the reality of building a thing is going to be different than playing the thing, and the reality of working at a company versus reading about a company are different. So you really can't have a career without the skill to adapt and pivot. You're going to have to do that so much to keep alive in this industry, or to be frank, most industries. So you're going to need more skills and experience. So the more that you can accrue, the more things you can learn, constantly learning, even after you leave school, keep training yourself, learn new software, learn new techniques, experiment. Learn skills outside of games. Go do rock climbing, go do trail running. Like, you'd be surprised at how many different things, like hobbies outside of games, will end up feeding into that field that helps you build better games and also connects you to other people, right? It's very boring to go into like a beer night and be like, well, the only thing I can talk about here is this particular game that everybody's playing, and this is what we're going to talk about for the next 3 hours. I want to talk to people about weird like crochet hobbies where they're making, like mutants, like slugworms or something. Like, I want to hear like the interesting things that people are doing that are outside of the normal conversation. And that's how you make friends and bond, which is important in the next slide. Also, a big one that I wish somebody had told me is it's okay to not be a game developer forever, okay? It's very easy to think right now, you're putting in all this time and this effort into being a game developer, and this is what you're gonna do for the next 20 years. That might not be the case. Honestly, that's probably likely not the case. A lot of people leave games after 5 to 10 years. That in no way means that this was a waste of time, or that if you have that career, it was a waste of time. Life is just strange, right? You could end up having kids and decide that you want to change, so you have something more stable. You could move to a different country and decide that you want to like teach surf lessons. Like there's all sorts of different ways that life can take you in a different path. And I think having this stuff in your head will tell you the right decisions for you as your life progresses, versus the sunk cost fallacy of, I've been a game developer for 7 years, and if I don't stay a game developer for another 10 years, I have failed, right? That's not the case. I have this at the end, like, if you make a game and somebody plays it, you're a game developer, okay? So that's the bar that you have to meet. That's the only bar you have to meet, okay? And then we all need a job to survive. Like, this is the reality that we live in. So if you're given the opportunity to work at some place that pays your bills and gives you benefits, and maybe it's not the perfect ideal job that you want, I would take it, and then you train up for that perfect ideal job, the thing that you're really excited about, okay? Give yourself some breathing room to actually like exist. I've seen a lot of young devs sit around and wait until they get exactly what they want, and they go through 6 months, then a year, then 2 years while looking for a job. And it's because they're not willing to adapt or explore different options, right? So be realistic and work on your skills to find the thing that you really enjoy and that excites you, and move towards that. And a hobby isn't a career, but they both matter. So you need to make sure that you take time to play your games, because a good game developer also plays games. But that doesn't mean that you have to make that the thing you do all the time. Make sure you have outside interests. They're going to bring you a lot of energy in life that if you're just immersed in just building games, just programming, or just making art all the time, you're gonna not have a full cup to actually start creating stuff. So this one's chunky too. Any questions? Okay. No? All right. Okay, so who matters? So building a good network is the first most important thing for your career. I have never officially applied for a job. I've always got it through people I knew. Now, I've had to have the skills to do it, and I had a good reputation, and I was capable of doing the job. But the reason I got the job in my wheelhouse in the first place is because I had a bunch of connections. And a lot of those times are people that you work with. So it's really important that you understand the industry is smaller than you think. People will talk about you, okay? And you want them to say good things. People remember how you made them feel and what you did. They remember if you were supportive. They remember if you were easy to work with. They remember if you listened to them when you had a bug or a problem and you needed help. They care and they will share that information with other people. If you start advancing, let's say you get in the opportunity where you can be a manager, or you can lead a team, or you're just at a company and you have a friend or you see somebody who's trying to get their foot in the door, I really encourage you, help people further down the ladder. Like, you should be a mentor. Like, everyone in here has the capacity to help somebody out. Like, any of you could come and talk to my kids, or, you know, come work for us during the summer, or you could go and help a STEM day at one of the schools. Like, you helping other people with the skills that you have helps build that community, that network, and creates a really healthy environment for us, which is what we all want, right? I would really recommend that you, especially at this point, look for mentors. Be a mentor, build a community. Y'all are already doing this just by having this club meet twice a month. That's freaking cool. Like, y'all are, heck yeah, good job. Y'all can pat yourselves on the back. Y'all coming to this. This matters. Like, I know sometimes it's inconvenient, and I know sometimes, like, we've got homework, we've got jobs, we've got sick pets, we've got, like, just life is very difficult. But by you showing up, you now know these people. These are people who you're going to be working with in the future. Like, you have a community that you're building here. It really, really is important. And you should really think about it like a garden. So, what do you do with a garden? Like, somebody tell me how you start a garden. Go.
You start planting things.
You start planting things. So I immediately eat the seeds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we start. So, you're not allowed to plant the garden in the new, like,
So you also need dirt too. So
yeah, you need dirt.
You
Yeah,
need to like
that's true.
select where you're like.
Yeah,
where
worms,
the garden
water,
is.
these things. The analogy works in this way, is that you plant these seeds because eventually they're going to grow into food that you can then benefit from. But for that to work, we all have to participate in building that garden, and we all have to participate in helping it stay alive. And you're a jerk if you just walk in and be like, okay, yeah, I got this is mine, oh, thank you. That's not how it works, right? So if you want to have a healthy environment for you to work in, you need to help create that environment, all right? And when you guys are working together, especially as students, especially if you're doing game jams, or you're doing any sort of critique and stuff like that, try to be supportive, not obnoxious. Like, if your ego is the first thing in the room, good luck, is all I'm gonna say. I would really say you should be encouraging instead of critiquing, right? Because you may be the world's best artist, but if somebody is just starting out and they're learning those skills, you really want to encourage them and you want to help them, because you were at that point once drawing, you know, horses with broken legs and like people with way too small heads, right? And you took the time and energy to get skilled at it. Help somebody else get to that level as well, because it will just benefit both of you, all right? Also, if you're shitty to work with, we know. And we talk all the time. Like, I've literally like seen people not get job opportunities just because somebody would be like, hey, you work with so-and-so? Oh yeah, no. Like, I would say no. Don't do no, not that person. You know? And so, I mean, really what I would say is like, if you genuinely are encouraging other people, you're genuinely pretty like friendly and nice and professional, and you try to be, you know, a good team member, like that comes out, right? That's the thing that we talk about. That's the thing we remember, and that helps get you jobs. Also, when you are networking, please don't just ask people for jobs. Instead, look at it like a connection, because a lot of times people who are at these networking events, like say Beer Night or IGDA or WIGA or any of these sorts of things, they don't have jobs to offer you. Like, they're just there, like, to see each other. So they can't give you that thing that you're wanting, and it turns it into a weird scenario that they don't want to be in, and then they're just going to remember that you made them feel uncomfortable. Instead, say like, hey, I would love to, like, if you're senior programmer at EA, that's amazing. Like, I'm just starting out. Like, if you ever, are interested, I'd love to pick your brain, for like software that I should use. Just ask for advice. And the worst they can say is like, no. And the best they can say is like, yeah, sure, here's my email. And you can email them and genuinely just ask them some questions, while being respectful of their time. And that's how you build mentorships and community. And if somebody shows up to do like one of these talks or does the portfolio reviews that they put on, they are self-selecting community builders, so it's a good chance that they're willing to talk to you. How am I doing on time? Probably garbage. No, it's fine. Okay, so learn this stuff. Please, for the love of God, learn this stuff. It's not game development, but it's really important. You need to understand how to read a contract. Please learn how to read a contract, because that's really important. Like, learning the things that you sign helps protect you in the end, especially if you decide you're going to be a contractor or a freelancer, right? And you can find a lot of information for this online, but also just whenever you get something like a contract, actually sit down and read it, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Like, hey, I don't understand this. Can this be explained to me in simpler language? You have every right to do that every time you're engaged in that sort of situation, okay? Also, you need to learn how to find, hire, and when to use a lawyer. This is not like a doomsday kind of thing. This is just like, if I wanted to form my LLC, like, I probably need a lawyer's advice to do that. If I'm gonna put together like liability waivers for the camp, I probably need a lawyer to do that, right? Like, if we all work together on a game and we decided this game is awesome, we're gonna publish it, we're gonna take rev share. We need to hire a lawyer, right? Okay, so learning that how to just do that mechanically is a useful skill for the rest of your life, because it can be intimidating. You going on Google and you can like, game contract lawyer, I don't know what to look for, right? So just learning those skills. These are business things, but I still think they're applicable to every game developer, honestly. Learn how to file an LLC, file a 1099, deduct taxes. So the reason I think this is important is odds are, this is again one of those things, this is my experience, this is not everyone's experience, and I could be wrong, but odds are pretty good that at some point you're going to be self-employed or working for yourself, right? And so that means that you will have to file your taxes differently than if you're a contract or if you're an employee and your business handles your taxes. What can happen is you say, let's say you work for a contract or a company and they pay you just $12,000 for the year, because that's what your contract was, right? But you work for a couple months, you got $12,000. You're going to get taxed roughly $3,500 on that $12,000, right? Out the gate, because you're going to be taxed at essentially like a 30% rate, because it includes like all the stuff that usually gets taken out and covered by your employer, right? And so the way you have to offset that is you have to learn how to deduct things for the cost of your doing business, right? And the last thing you want to do is like before the deadline, be Googling how to freaking do that. So start learning now, ask people. I have like a whole sheet of like, these are the things that I deduct that I help with people whenever somebody asks. But you can deduct, for example, the games that you buy because of research. If you're an artist and you're buying art books or art supplies, you can deduct those. If you're traveling for contract work, you can deduct some of your mileage, gas, depending. If you work from home, you can deduct part of your home office. Like, these are all things that will eat through that insane tax rate, but if you don't know that and you're like 21 and you suddenly are stuck with a huge tax bill, that can really screw you, especially if you're tight on money. Also, make time to learn the business of games, all right? And I mean, how are games funded? How do companies hire other companies? How do contracts between companies work? Get a baseline understanding of the business that you're about to go work in, right? And there are tons of resources for that. You can go onto, like, GDC has tons of talks about it. Like, you can go onto the annual reports. You can literally look at consultant pages and see their estimates of like which companies are moving this way. You should be aware of this, right? Because it's definitely going to affect you. It's going to affect you even if you're not working in a AAA studio. Learn how games are funded. The contract should make sense to you. If something feels off, you can ask questions. Do this, especially when you're starting out, okay? If it's not written down, it doesn't exist, is another thing that goes for everything, okay? This is not necessarily like, you have to document everything just because something bad can happen. Literally, what can happen is, if we are, for example, in a game environment, like, and we're up here and we're talking about the plans for the day, and we're like, okay, we're going around in this run, and we're like, what are you going to work on this week? Just tell me something. UI, okay, cool, you're going to work on UI, so you're going to work on screen 3, right? Okay, then we go all sit at our desk, and I'm like, what was he going to work on? I don't remember. And then and they're like, hey, did you get screen 5 done? You see what I mean? Like, there's communication issues that come when everything is just verbalized. So make a habit of writing everything down. And this also makes your life easier later because as things get more chaotic, both with like life as an adult and also you as a developer, like having things just documented means that you always have a cheat sheet to go back and see what was said in the meeting, what is due when, and then also, in addition, if you're unlucky enough to work at a toxic place where you need to really protect yourself, documenting things also keeps you safe, okay? So, and it can be something as simple as like, hey, we had a great talk. Here's the notes from that. And then let me know if I got anything wrong, and then we're golden, and then we both know what we talked about, and it's there forever, all right? Useful. Wish I had learned that earlier. Because I have terrible memory, so. Okay. So where to go? So this is another one that's hard to hear, but I wish somebody had told me, and I wish somebody had told a lot of people that I've encountered in the last many years. Austin is a great place to start. You have tons of opportunities. You have like 3 schools here who have game development programs. There's a healthy networking community here. There's good vibes, right, within the game dev community here. But you need to leave, okay? And the reason is when you get out of school, Austin specifically is a very difficult market to get a job and keep a job in, and it's very difficult for entry-level positions. And I say this with full authority after 20 years of seeing it. It's very hard to get an entry-level position here. So you need to be prepared to move. And this does not need to be a terrible thing. It just needs to be something that you're mentally preparing for, right? And that could be you move for a couple years to go get a job someplace else, and then you come back. Life is strange. You'll see where you end up. When you're looking at places to go, look for places that have healthy game dev communities, and places with anchor and indie companies. So this one's really important. This changes every single year with studio closures and just big changes in the industry. So for example, like Chicago has a big anchor company and it's got smaller indie studios there too, right? You have Seattle has a couple, obviously, San Francisco, all of California, all of that sort of stuff. You should be researching these places, find places that feel good to you or that look interesting to you, and then I would just like spy on the wall, like or fly on the wall. Just sit there and go into their subreddits and just see what that city feels like, right? And see if there's like IDA chapters there, see if there's like meetups there, maybe go out there, check it out. But I would say be careful about moving for just a job unless you've already vetted that place, unless you already know there's other companies there. Because the worst case that can happen, and it has happened to people, is you'll go out for a job, you'll move your entire family, move your entire life, and then that studio closes in 2 months, right? So don't move just for a job unless you know in that area there are other jobs, right? Or you have some sort of protection. Or you're at the stage in your life where you're like, I can totally pick up and leave after 2 months. This is not a problem for me. I can go someplace else. And go to a place that allows you to work and live. So go to a place that like you can afford to live, where the cost of living matches your salary, and it's a place that you like being. Like I would be miserable up north because I hate the cold viscerally, so I would never go to Chicago, right? But some people are like, I hate Austin because it's 105 degrees every day. You know, you choose your poison. So, okay. All right. And then, any questions? I've done a crap ton of information. Go.
Where do you feel like are some like bigger hub cities for Austin or for campus stuff? I've heard of Seattle,
Mhm.
LA, and then here.
My information is almost certainly outdated. So I know like the Bay Area is huge. I know Seattle still has them. They have pretty stable companies up there. Vegas, strangely, has a bunch of game casual phone game studios, and they have a lot of money too.
Yeah.
So because it's stable. And then Montreal is obviously a good one. Also, like looking at, because I spent a few hours just looking through the reports and growth and lots of numbers. But apparently, like a lot of big publishers are moving their dev hubs to different countries. And one of the countries that I thought was really interesting was Poland, because I have worked with a Polish team. They were fantastic, really, really good. I love them. We are not the only studio in their city. And not only that, but there's a bunch of games coming out of that area too. So it smells like that country has a lot of game studio growth going on, and there's a lot of investment there. So stuff like that, not just in the States, I would look outside of the States as well. So, go for it.
This is also about the last slide, but
Yeah.
like, as someone, like in my situation, my family's here, my
Yeah.
partner's family's here, like, so like, obviously I'm not trying, like, when you say, you need to move,
Mhm.
do you, like, like moving for a job, like if I got a job opportunity, I would very
Yeah.
much consider that in that situation, but like, pre-moving somewhere definitely seems like a really hard choice and decision.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
so how much do you like how much is it valid like that for like moving somewhere else instead of like staying here and trying to still push through?
Yeah, so I would say like you have to be, that's a question for yourself, right?
Yeah.
So I would frame it like this. I would say if I were you and you have a lot of ties here, make a decision for, okay, after I graduate, I'm gonna try to find a job in Austin. I'm gonna give myself 6 months to find one, right? And you set up some sort of time frame for yourself, right? And either you, at that end in time, I would say either, okay, I need to start looking elsewhere, maybe for remote jobs and stuff like that, see if I can find something like that. Or maybe something that's, feels really stable and I'm willing to move for that. Like I got a job opportunity in like, Chicago and like it looks good, I'm gonna go for it. And just prepare for that. You can also, which I'm gonna talk about in just a second, you can also do the thing where you're like, okay, I don't see any jobs here that I'm getting. I can't move, right? And I'm not willing to give up game development. So what are my options, right? Then I would be like, okay, we'll start building games. Like just start building games. Find a job that pays your bills, that doesn't eat up all of your time. And then it doesn't have to be in games, just as long as it gives you some time and some financial security, and then on the side work on your own game, like with other people, like with at least one other person, And I would just do that and see what happens with that. Because the worst case scenario, and this is just my opinion, but the worst case scenario is you graduate, you don't move, you can't find a job, and 1 year goes by, and you're still looking, and then 2 years goes by, and you're still looking, and then you're trying to find like, spotty contracts here, and it gives you $1,000 here and there, and you watch as like, it just eats at you, So I would say protect yourself by setting a time limit for like what's realistic, and then have some steps that you're gonna take after that, right? Like either, I'm gonna reevaluate whether or not I can move, or I'm gonna start working on my own thing, so at the very least, I have something during this time where I'm trying to look that's mine and that I created and that gave me joy and gave me excitement. Does that help at all?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a very good question, because it's like easy to be like, hey, just kick out, but like if you have kids here, or if you have a relative that you're taking care of because they're ill, like you don't have tons of freedom. So you're gonna have to make decisions for yourself, And I think with COVID and everything else that happened, like remote work is super vital, especially for indie teams. So apply the hell out of that, right? Like, and the nice thing too is if you're working on your own project, you release it, let's say it doesn't make any money, but it goes and lives. I'm gonna talk more about this in a second. like you have now experience during that time frame. You weren't just sitting around, you have a game that you made. So now you're not an entry level person, you're just a junior. Yeah. So what's up?
I guess like it's very specific, but like, are there any, if you want to stay in Austin, are there any industries that like flow into games that are easier to get entry level jobs in? Like, you know, I might not be able to get an entry level job in games, but somewhere else that might flow into games.
That's a really good question. I don't know, but I would say like the fact that you asked that question means that you should look into it. Like, because that is a very good train of thought. Like, if I was to do that, I would look into like motion graphics. Animation used to be more viable here. I haven't, there's a couple small studios here, but I think some of them have closed. And so I have outdated information. You could do advertising, because if you're, like motion graphics are a good one to, are you art, code?
UX design is fine.
UX?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got tons of things in, like webs, web developers, like motion graphics, like anything like that. HED, for example, has a huge like arm that just builds their graphics and stuff like that, you know, like the stars, like KXAN, like all these people need graphics, right? And they need, you know, that's a thing you can put in your portfolio. I would look at things that are adjacent to your skill set, and then you can kind of like, let's see what we can get there. Let's feel around, like even just looking at the job postings and seeing which is the most viable. Yeah, that's a great question. Very good. Do that. Go research that. Smart. Yeah.
I think we should start applying for jobs now, even if some of us are not too great.
No, I think you should wait. I think you should wait for now. I think you should be building games right now. Not applying for jobs right now. Because you're in school, right? For how much longer?
Like 1 more semester.
1 more semester? Okay. I would take the semester, you're not gonna have a ton of time after this. I would really hone in and like refine your portfolio and start making networking connections now, like going to networking events. Like take this semester and be like, we're gonna head down, focus on this, and we're gonna take this couple months and we're gonna make it really good. And then looking for the job can be your full-time job, right? But right now, if you start doing that, you're splitting your attention, in my opinion, again, just my opinion, I think that will hurt your like readiness for when you graduate. Okay? Yeah, go ahead.
What if in the next semester I don't have as much workload, then like I should?
Then I would, okay, then my recommendation, this is just advice. I would start sitting and looking at the kinds of jobs that are available that like maybe are just right outside of my current skill set. So maybe it's like, I've done it once, but I'm not really good at it, or I could do that because I'm right here with it, right? And I would focus on getting those skills, because if you start seeing like a dozen postings for a technical artist, right? You see a dozen postings for technical artists, like junior technical, we need a technical artist, and you're like, hey, I'm pretty good at coding, not the best, but I'm decent. I can do some art, right? I know these programs. Maybe I'll go and tool up on like Max or Blender or Photoshop or these sorts of tools. And then I can say, I can do this technical artist job when I graduate. You already know that there's people looking, right? And if you're looking now, they're gonna be looking 6 months from now, all right? So, does that help? Okay, cool.
What about internships? Do you think in the gaming industry is something we should be looking out for? What?
Okay, huge caveat. I have opinions about this. These are just my opinions. These are just my opinions, okay? I really think that any internship where you are not getting paid, like money, is unethical. And I would say like, now, the exception to that is if it's done through your school and there's some sort of oversight where somebody is making sure that you're getting an actual mentor, an actual on-the-job training, and you're getting something material for your effort and your time and your work, That's the exception to that. This is just my opinion. I really do not think it's ethical to take your labor and not pay you. So, but again, that's my opinion, okay? So I would say you should get paid. And maybe it's not gonna be much. Maybe it'll be crap paid. Like maybe it'll be minimum wage, because that's what they get. But like, you should get something for your time, all right? Because the odds are you're going to be doing that work. And it's also this situation where I've seen too many times somebody will come in as an intern and there will be nobody there to actually train them or like teach them. And instead they're basically doing the work that a junior programmer or a junior artist or a junior audio person should be doing. And I disagree with that. So I would say be careful with that. You should always get compensated for your work, okay? Okay. That's my campus, okay? Okay, so we're gonna go, because I want to get through this and we're almost done.
Sorry, I have one more question.
Yeah, go for it.
What is what's your approach to, whenever I'm like looking at jobs, I think most of the roles there are senior roles. And it seems like the entry level jobs are just not there.
I'm gonna talk about that.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting to. Okay, so again, huge caveat. This is based on my experience, which is not everybody's experience, and this is my opinion. This is not facts, okay? This is just information. You should not just listen to me, okay? I am not omniscient, okay? So, if I were you guys looking at the market as it is right now, and sort of the realities I've observed in the last 2 decades, I would really focus on independent games instead of AAA studios. And again, this is just my opinion. And the reason I would do that is when we're looking at the pros and the cons, does everybody understand the difference between like what working at an indie studio is versus working at a AAA studio? Please raise your hand if there's confusion or if you're just like, I really don't know. Go for it.
I have no clue what that's at.
Cool. So thank you for asking. Okay. So basically, an independent studio can mean a lot of things, but essentially for you, it's a studio that is usually smaller. So you're just talking less than like 50 people, or less than 100 people. We'll say that because there's middle here. So less than 100 people. Usually it's around less than 50. Usually their publishing is coming from an outside source. So it could be a big publisher comes and hires them to make a game for them, or they self-publish because, like, for example, a Supergiant, like, they can fund their own games now, right? Or maybe it's crowdfunded that became available, or they got private invested. Basically, they're a small team that is not owned by a big giant company, right? And AAA studio is usually tied to a big giant company, like EA, for example, is like going to have studios that are made up of hundreds of people, and they own and operate as a big giant company, right? When you're talking about your role as developer in either of these, usually if you're working for a big AAA, there are some pros to it. So you're usually going to be working on more well-structured teams. So your teams will tend to be larger and more segmented, and you'll have a lot of really experienced people to learn from, right? Because like these people who have been working at this studio probably have been in games for at least 10 years. You'll usually have some benefits in healthcare, and usually they're pretty good. You'll have recognizable projects, so if you get credit on it, you can say like, I worked on Assassin's Creed 99, whatever, and you'll be like, oh my god, that's my favorite game. Like you'll have that, which feels good, right? And then also it helps you get job opportunities in the future. A lot of times, people that you're needing at AAA studios, if you're working there, are going to have more avenues towards job opportunities, more avenues towards money. So they'll just have higher level connections because they work with people with more money, right? Usually it's going to be less ego-driven. This is not always, sometimes, but usually it's going to be more focused on metrics. So what that means is they're going to care more about the numbers that the game is doing than whether or not they're right about the color of the witch's cloak, right? They're going to care whether or not that color change or a costume change translates into some sort of money, right? So it gives you a little bit of understanding of how that system works, so you have, it's a known quantity, right? And you usually have more regular hours. This used to not be the case. I remember when it was not the case. It's gotten better. It's gotten a lot better. Based on the survey data, it's really improved, actually. The cons, entry-level positions are almost non-existent. Like, they are like unicorns. I have never heard of somebody in an entry-level position in a AAA studio. That does not mean that that doesn't happen. I just haven't encountered somebody in the wild who has, right? So I'm sure there is. I just feel like, for me, my perception is that it's rare. And based on the information that I read yesterday, it looks like that industry sector is contracting, which means they're getting very, very lean with their teams, and they're doing a lot of outsourcing to other countries, which means they're not hiring for those studios, right? They're hiring companies. Layoffs are extremely common, and project cancellations are heartbreaking. So this one's gonna be hard. So you work on something for 3 years of your life that you spend every day going in there and you're building this thing and you love this thing and you're so excited about this thing and it's beautiful and it's so good. And you know, if you just saw it get to the light of day, everyone would love it as much as you do. And then it gets canceled and no one ever sees it. And that's really, really hard, okay? So that's a hard one, that's a con. And then, this is an opinion, specialization, I think, can result in career atrophy. So what that means is, it's unlikely that you're gonna be a sort of jack of all trades while you're working at a AAA studio. Like, usually you're gonna have a very defined role, a very defined task, and you're gonna be doing that task the entire time, right? Unless you're in a senior level position, you are going to be in an assembly line worker kind of situation, right? And that's fine, except because you'll get very, very good at doing that thing. But what happens if that thing goes away in the industry? If the technology gets developed where now you're no longer useful, or they change the parameters of the job and now you've been a specialist in this, that can come back and bite you in the butt, right? Especially if you're not going outside of your job to train up. So these are just things to be aware of. Again, do not underestimate this one, okay? So for the indie studios, you're probably going to have more opportunities for diversities and stories, which matters because if you look at the kind of stories that are being told in big AAA studios, they are the same stories we've had for the last 30 years, right? Some of them are great, some of them are banal, but like we're not getting a ton of diversity at that level. If you go deeper into indie games, you're starting to see a lot of really cool explorations of story, explorations of gameplay, explorations of what even a game can be, and you just get a lot more opportunities to learn from people in different walks of life, expand your understanding of the games that you enjoy playing. You can just get a lot of diversity in indie games that I personally am like romanticized by, so that's why I play most of them. It's also a low barrier to entry, which means most people's first jobs are, in my experience, they're indie games, right? So that means it's a small studio, it's either bootstrapped or it's published its first or second game, and they're tooling out, they're hiring new people. And in their opinion, it's better to take somebody who's new and train them to be the person they need them to be than try to find that person on the open market, which is what you want. You want to go into a studio and you want to be trained on how to be a really cool game developer, right? Based on the numbers I saw when I was reading yesterday, the market and industry are growing. I think there's going to be more options in the style of work, the location, team size, projects. So maybe you really like working with 10 people, and that's your happy place. And maybe you like working with 50, it's diversity right there. Maybe you want to work remotely, right? Or you want to work 3 days a week, or you're fine with going and working for 3 months at a place and coming back. Like there's a lot more flexibility, it feels like. I think it will help you learn what you need to outside of school. And what I mean by that is, if you come in and you just immediately start working at AAA Studio, they're going to handle all your contracting stuff for you, or your contracts for you. They're going to handle your 401k. Like, they're going to basically give you this table and say, you're here, this is what you do, You don't really need to think outside the box. But if you work at an indie studio, you're gonna have to like put on a lot of hats that aren't just game developer hats, and you're gonna learn a lot. And then it gives you some experience. Like even if you work at a trash indie studio where like you're making the world's dumbest card game. I am having flashbacks. And you're like, this is insane. And it's just terrible, right? When you leave that company, you will have made a game, right, that you can put on your resume, that you built. You will have learned, even if it was a terrible experience and a terrible game, you will have learned so much more, and you will have experience then that you can take into the next job opportunity or the next application, right? Cons are, stability is gonna be all over the place. So some studios are really stable, some studios are chaotic and led by, insane people. It's just all over the place. You have to kind of learn how to set really healthy boundaries and understand what you will and will not tolerate and what you will and will not seek out, right? This one exists everywhere, but this is one of the things that can be dangerous. Inexperienced teams, that can be another problem with indie games. And inexperienced teams goes back to, what happens when a deadline is looming and something breaks, right? At a AAA studio, normally people know what to do in that situation. There is a procedure, there is a process. People are gonna act like professionals most of the time, so you'll handle that. At an indie studio, people can just like lose their crap, right? All over the place because they just haven't experienced this before. Health and income can be spotty. So what can happen is you can work at an indie studio and you're a contractor and you don't get health care, but you're working there 40 hours a week. It can be all over the place. So you kind of need to go in there and understand, like, no situation is ever perfect, but understanding the risks and rewards for each will help you make decisions. And then I think you guys should really just start building your own games, is my opinion. It's like you do not need permission to start making your own games and putting them out there and getting your own resume filled. So like if you go and you spend 6 months with Fallen making a game and you release it on Steam and it makes zero money, but it's out there and it's being played by people, that's a thing that you publish that's on your resume. And you say, I was the lead programmer for this game, and you have something to show for it. And no one's giving you permission for that. And what's more is you do that, you're like, okay, I know there's a bunch of things we could have done better, like one, we need an audio person. So hey, do you want to come be our audio person? Like come and we're going to do this second game that we're making, right? And now we learn how to do community manager. Can you come be the community manager? Let's do this. And now you're starting to form like a real studio. And you release that second game, and the second game is better and made a little bit of money, not tons of money, but something, right? And you got more skills. Now you come in and you're like, okay, now we've got the lead artist. So now our art looks good. And now we know exactly how to talk to our community. We have a following. We have a game that's being more successful. You release a game and now you make money. And now you have a studio that you've built, that you can control, and that you can make a living off of, right? You have the opportunity to do that, and the only real barrier is just starting, right? It's as risky to start your own thing as it is to like try to apply for a AAA studio or an indie studio, right? So right now, start making games. It's what I want you guys to take away. It's like, I really believe that you should be making tons of little crappy games. Okay, last thoughts, and then I'll open it to all your questions. I know a lot of this was heavy, and I like, it was heavy for me too, but I wanted to give you guys as much useful information that I wish I had had when I started as I could. I will say, like, if you guys make a game and you share it with other people, and they play it, you're a game developer, you do not need permission to make things you're excited to create. We live in a world that means we need money to survive, but you didn't decide to become a developer to make a lot of money. I hope not, right? No, that's not how it works. But I imagine that all of us decided to become developers because you fell in love with games, they excited you, they sparked something inside you, they comforted you, they give you hope, you know. Who in here has played a game when they were sad and you cheered them up? Cool. So these are really beautiful moments, and I assume you wanted to make games to create moments like that for other people, and that's really sweet. And you should always just keep making things. So I know that we're worried about AI, I know we're worried about the market, I know we're worried about everything that's currently going on. But please just keep making stuff, like make your crappy art, make your terrible music, your bad code, your stupid stories, keep making them, sharing them. They're important to share with other people, they're important for you to make them. Like, don't let anybody take that away from you, okay? All right, so that's my high horse, that's the most important thing I can tell you. It's for myself as well, not just y'all. These are resources, please, for the love of God, give me more if you have more. HGDC meets every month. We have a very active Austin chapter, go do that. Games Y'all meets every month, very active, very nice people. Austin Village State is basically, if you're working on a game, this is the perfect place to go and just get a couple hours where you have focused time to work on it. And then ATX game dev calendar. I was having a hard time finding exactly where it is. I have to ask John and be like, where is it, John? But I will share it with you guys. It basically keeps a running tab on events that are happening in Austin, which you should be going to. And then game dev beer night, which is you go, if you're of age, you go and drink beer. And yeah.
You can still go if you're not of age. You just
I know, but I had to stop for the drink beer part.
Yeah, the beer part.
But references, so these are some of the like reports and stuff that I looked through. I have them all, and I can send them to you if you want. But they're useful to read through. A lot of it's just numbers. And then also, like, thank you guys. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you guys. Like, I enjoy doing this, and I really genuinely hope that it was useful for you. Like, that's like more important than me just like, coming up here and being kind. I really, really hope that this helps in some way. That's why I came. Okay. So. Okay. Questions? Go.
Do you have any opinions on anyone who wishes to immediately start their own company with either themselves or with just a small group of people?
Do it. I mean, there's no, like, why not? Like, just do it. I would say, like, you know what's gonna happen is you're gonna do it, and you're gonna make so many mistakes. And it's gonna go so badly in the beginning. And just be prepared for that, and go and be like, that's part of the experience. Like, the fact that something went wrong is beautiful, because it means I can learn from it. If everything went right, I would learn jack shit. So go in there, just do it, and then, like, figure out how to do it better. You know, and then, yeah, I mean, go for it. Why not? Like, you don't need my permission, so, yeah.
What's your favorite Aliens movie?
Ooh, okay, very good, very good. So, favorite Aliens movie, currently controversial, Romulus. And the only okay, the reason is because, like, I am genuinely impressed that they were able to tie all of that together in a movie that didn't suck. Like, that's such a skill. Like, you tied, they even, like, in the iconography and the things, they tied Romulus and Remus. Like, you have the Romulus section, which is, like, I believe, terrible names, but I believe that's, like, represents the older trilogy, you know, and then you have Remus, which represents the newer one. So you have, like, the Black Goo, and you have the original, like, aliens, and it's just, like, such, it's so good. It's so good at being able to be like, we have a clusterfuck. And then they undid it, and then they made it into something. I'm like, oh, this is good. So skill. So let's say Romulus right now, but original Alien is like very good. So yeah.
I imagine that since you said you manage people, so you're
Yeah.
the manager. So that means you're talking with other companies to like that you want to contract your team.
Yeah, definitely. I've been on both sides. A lot of my experience was working as either part of a small team, working with a bigger company as a contractor, or as a small team working with bigger teams that were our contractors, right? So I've had on both sides. So I worked with companies in China, companies in India, companies in Poland, and France once, which was fun. And then companies in Austin. And then, so yeah, kind of, I am the communicator between those. Yeah. Cool.
How did you start that?
I I fell into it. Like I am bossy, and I can sometimes be charming. And so they were like, I guess we'll cut her hair. So like it genuinely happened kind of by accident. I was an artist, and then ended up just being able to make decisions, which turned into being put in charge of things more often than not. And then I like being able to be in charge of things, because I felt like I could make good decisions, is what I'm saying. Not always, but I could occasionally make some. And then I am good at communicating between teams, which also is super useful. That's why I think I ended up being an art director, because I was able to talk to programmers, I was able to talk to designers, I was able to understand their discipline and communicate our needs of the art team. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing, getting everyone on the same prayer.
If you can get good at communicating just with the people in your life, like really clearly, and communicating with yourself as well, that same skill will translate to work as well. So just being able to like have empathy, like understand where somebody's coming from, and maybe why they're acting, like also break down the assumption that everybody's just doing their best, right? So not ascribing maliciousness to actions, but instead of going like, you know, they're probably tired, that's why they're being an asshole. They're tired, they slept, they haven't eaten, they need a Snickers bar. Not even about me. All right, like if you can kind of train that in your brain when you're talking to other people, it helps a lot with just lubricating those communications, you know? Because 9 times out of 10, if something is stressful, it's not about you. It's not, it has nothing to do with you, it has to do with whatever they're dealing with in their life, you know? Does that help?
Alicia, I think we'll do one more question.
Yeah.
and then-
Cool. Oh, yeah.
Oh, can somebody else?
Yeah, he has access to me, so like,
What would you say is, what do you think is the best like game jam length? Because I've done a couple of weekend ones and they feel like they've been more stressful than anything. And so I just wondered, you know.
I mean, I would say like if the 48-hour ones are really stressful for you, which they're stressful for me too, is maybe look on HIO or some other sites and look for ones that are like over a month, right? Where it's like you have like, this is a deadline, this is when it starts, and this is the deadline for it, but there's not like a concentrated time frame for it, because there's tons of those too. And then you can kind of say like, okay, we'll put 6 hours in this month. Maybe I'll make it a simple game in 6 hours. It's what I can do in 6 hours, but that's what I have, you know? The shortest ever, I made a game in 4 hours.
Oh my god.
It was good for 4 hours. I'll show it to you sometime. It's a little spider. She jumps and hits the wall and does gravity and makes a little beat. So it was a done game. But I would say like you know your schedule better than anybody. So like find one that fits your schedule and be okay with that you didn't have a huge chunk of that. You can also do a 48-hour game job and just be like, I got one day. And that's what I'm gonna do. It's just one day. And then make sure you tell your team, make sure people you work with know that that's what you have. You know? So I've done that before too. You know, as long as you're clear about your communication. So, yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.